Here it is, Monday again. Week 5, thank you for all the work. As soon as possible, take a look at your quizzes from this past weekend and then close the loop on any content. Specifically, if you struggled with blood typing. So when you do the simulation or when you watch the video, there's some terminology that just has to be kind of dialed in because there are significant differences between things like antigens, which are the proteins on the surface of the cells, and antibodies, which are the immunoglobulins that are in the plasma. And as you went through the quiz, or if you're reviewing your lab quiz and you see that you struggled with antigens versus antibodies, or you struggled with combinations, you have to go back and get that stuff down. I tried to set you up for success on this by stressing the importance of those simulations. And I know some of you heard me, but if you didn't, and if you still need clarification on that, it's okay. These quizzes, weekly quizzes, are meant to be motivating and keep you up on the content. But as you know, we have major exams coming up, and that's really where the payoff for all this work is. So it's never a problem to miss a couple questions on a quiz, but you owe it to yourself to go back and learn the content. And then please remember that you will be accountable for it later. Not just in this class. Blood typing is massive. So as you go on to become nurses, you'll need to know this stuff. It's never a big issue to struggle with anything as long as you learn from it. All right, coming up this week, we will segue into out of cells, which is kind of nice, and we'll start to move into some bone stuff. And there's a couple of things to do for a lecture. There are 2 short videos and a fairly technical reading. So this is going to be maybe, I know the skin reading was a little bit detailed, but we have a couple technical readings coming up this semester, and they're put in here on purpose because you'll have multiple technical readings when you do get into programs. So here's a good chance to practice in a supportive environment with some feedback on a weekly basis, and then we can talk about study tactics. So for lecture this week, a couple of videos on bone stuff and a technical reading on how bones are formed, and it's one of 2 mechanisms. The bones in our body are built either by a process called intramembranous ossification or by a process called endochondral ossification. There are 2 types. We alluded to these in general A&P, but now we'll do the deep dive. It will take you some time to get through the bone content. It will require that you make notes, that you maybe draw diagrams for yourself. So please get an early jump on this. In lab, we will review all of the bones in the body, and this will require an extra step from you for lab, and we'll use this extra step all the weeks moving forward. So up until now, in Connect, we've only used simulations in order to prepare over the weekly lab content and then take the quiz. This week, coming up, and you'll see this posted, I've got a direction video for you in week 5 of D2L. Each week, now in lab, we'll take a look at cadaver structures. And what you'll have to do is take a special code that I made for you for this class that contains just the content you're responsible for, and you'll have to insert that code into a program called APR. You get to McGraw-Hill APR through the same platform that we find the Connect simulations and the quizzes. It's called Anatomy and Physiology Revealed, APR. And each week I'll give you an APR code that will give you a list of structures to study. And this week we will do bones. So in order to be in this class, it means you've had a prerequisite anatomy and physiology class that was comparable. And in that comparable prior class, or the prereq essentially, we looked at all the bones in the body, and we're going to do that again this week. So this should be review. As you know, some of the bones are a little bit more, tricky is not the right word, some of the bones are just a little bit more detailed, especially the bones in the wrists or the carpals, and then the ankles or the tarsals. And in week 5 of D2L, I've also provided links to help you, kind of a hand and foot bone review. So that's the week laid out. You're pros at this point. I give you these videos to try to be a little bit motivating and provide some guidance every week, but you kind of know the drill right now. Doesn't mean I'll stop doing them. I'd also like you to take a critical look at your grade and see how you're doing right now. In order to get credit for this class or your program, a number of you have minimum grade requirements. And if your grade isn't where you need it to be, then some things will have to change. And it's not the end of the world, and we don't have to push the panic button yet. We just have to get things moved in the right direction because there's plenty of time, there's plenty of opportunity. Another question that's probably less critical is, hey, are you happy with your current grade? Do you feel like your grade reflects your efforts? And if it doesn't, then it's up to you to change that stuff. I hope you're seeing that all the questions on the quizzes and exams from lecture and lab come right from the content. So I'm not trying to pull the wool over anyone's eyes. The content is out there. And if you're struggling with it, there are a number of reasons that we all struggle with learning content. It starts with time. If you're not putting in enough time, that's the obvious place to start. But within the time that you use to study, there are ways to be more or less effective. And the way to help yourself diagnose what's going on is to take a critical look at quiz and exam questions. And if you ever miss one, which we all do and we all will forever, the question to ask yourself is, why did I miss this? And the answer to that question will help you strategize moving forward. I'm awful at these motivational speeches, but I'm on your side. I'm your advocate in this. The only person who wants you to succeed more than you do is me, and I'm here to help. So the way to be successful on this big week of content is to start early, do a deep dive, take breaks, and then revisit this multiple times. So a lot of stuff to do in lecture and a complete bone review in lab. Might be a good idea today to take a look at the video instructions in week 5 of D2L to try to get access with the code that I've provided to this week's anatomy and physiology revealed images. So every week in lab moving forward now, we'll take a look at cadaver images, and they will always be accessible through this program in Connect called APR, Anatomy and Physiology Revealed. Every week I'll give you a special code that has just the structures that you need, and also every week I'll provide a list so in the lab component of D2L so you know which structures you're responsible for. All right, please check your emails. I'll be reaching out to each of you over the next day or so. Have a great Monday. It's a beautiful day here in Minneapolis if that's where you are. Stay safe. Thanks for the work.